Okay, SmartMister is a device where we try and copy nature and try and make your office the same as the seaside. But what we do is we take HOCl, which is the chemical you found in your body, its own immune system. It's the chemical that we use to fight off bacteria and infections that rushes to the wound. That fights infection. We take that to liquid, we turn it into a gas with this device. And this device, what it does is it takes air in the back of it through an activated carbon filter and HEPA filter. It then runs through a UVC light, which basically sterilizes the air, and then an ionization tool that changes the ions in the air. Once it does that, it runs through a circulation pump, and then it hits an ultrasonic atomizer, which turns the liquid into a gas. It adopts it, and then basically squirts out the top. And when it comes out there, it uses a sensor on the back to work out the temperature of the room, the humidity of the room, and then that delivers whatever it thinks is the right amount of HOCl as a gas in the room. It does that as a gas that's lighter and thinner than air, so it travels with the air and uses it to get everywhere. And then basically that gas that travels around will land on all the surfaces and basically make anything inert there. And it's a dry thing that you can stick your eyeballs in, you can breathe it in, etc. It's a dry product, it's not wet. But that travels around and it sanitizes all the surfaces. It strips out things like the pathogens in the air, things like pollens, mushroom spores, makes them bigger, fatter, and heavier. They fall to the ground. You wipe it up with a cloth next morning, you hoover it away, and then basically it does that to a couple of international standards. In this case, the 1276, 13704, and those standards basically prove that the surface is clinically clean. And basically, you've got test results from labs for the product, but if you want, you can do your own swab test, like the NHS do per area, and swab out an area and basically check that it's working.
So the DT5300, which is the original SmartMister that you're actually touching now, yep, is a deep sanitization product. So that will actually do a deep sanitization in your company, so that, like for example, here we've got machines downstairs, we've got machines upstairs, the same as you guys have in Finch Hampstead. I know that when I come into the office in the morning, there's been a deep sanitization and the office is safe and my desk and my area is safe.
Yes, it's like if a school is told that the track and trace database, so if someone's got the track and trace database app and they're told that someone the night before had COVID and they need to close down and do a deep clean, you wheel this in and run it for the appropriate time, and that will do a deep clean of premises. And all you have to do afterwards is just basically wipe it off the surfaces and hoover that up. And then it has another mode that allows you to do a top up every day. So you could do a deep clean once whenever you think, and then do a top up. And there's a software app as well that allows you to control the system so that you can effectively turn it on, turn it off, set schedules up.
And you could turn this machine on and off up here as well at the same time as using that one?
Yeah, I can control multiple machines on multiple sites and say, turn these ones on in a Tuesday night to do a deep clean, a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to do a top-up version of it, and use the app to control things. It also gives you feedback of the humidity and temperature of the room, which come towards the end of the year will be more important, because it's standards like the wellbeing standards basically says that you have to keep buildings between 40 and 60% humid for the health of people. If it's below 20%, you have 70% more chance of catching a virus. So we use the feedback to manipulate things there. And then that travels around, it sanitizes everything. So high touch areas like a desk where your elbows are rubbing against it, or light switches, it has to persist legally for 1 hour after you've been touching it. And if you don't touch it, it's 3 to 18 hours that it persists.
So this machine, unlike any others that kind of claim to do these kind of things like fogging machines, etc., the SmartMister gets everywhere. So even under the desk, on the chewing gum, that type of thing.
Yeah, fogging machines still have their place, but they were the only thing that people knew how to use before. And the problem is they're not regulated. No one knows what you should put in them and what you should do. So it's where PPE equipment, masks, make sure everybody's out of the room, tape up the room, and they're generally a wet, invasive solution that can take, say, up to 3 days because it has to dry off afterwards. So you go in and fog it, you have to spend a lot of money on labour, and then you have to clean it all off and take things like computers out, or if you've got oil paintings in a premises or anything precious like books, you've got to take those out. Whereas this is a dry product, you don't have to remove paper or books from it. It achieves the same thing, but it's automated and much cheaper to use than fogging.
So you mentioned briefly before, Ray, what standards does this product live up to? And how do we prove that it lives up to these standards?
So it falls into two camps. See the unit itself, the liquid that we put, the HOCl and hypochlorous acid. This has about 14 different European and British standards to basically do everything from preserve foods to kill germs to just do all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So that has lots of standards for that. And then we have a standard for delivery of the products. So the standards have been around for like 25 years in food production. So they'll spray this into a warehouse that's storing something like cheese to stop bacteria eating cheese. We put it in corn to stop the little mite thing basically eating the corn. If you live in London, you've got 7% of this in your water. They use it to kill bacteria in water. And it's used in certain beers as well as a way of stopping the yeast from overdoing itself. So it's used in all sorts of places. And there's a new standard coming out for 2021 now, which is where basically this one, it's lost the camera. So BS 17272. We're just putting it through March for this because it gets released in April. And this is a brand new standard for COVID-19 and COVID-21 just for release, for proving you can kill with an automated system. So we're just going through that. And then there was another standard 14476 that just came out in the 9th of January to prove that you can kill COVID in hospitals and other clinical premises. We've got the certificate for that one just the other day. So we're going through lots of standards, and as many as we can find that are relevant. But we've got a standard to prove that the surface is good enough to prepare, manufacture food off of and eat without any pathogens, virus. And we've got standards to say that anything that lands in here will die. And other ones basically talking about the health sides of it as well.
Okay. So when we're talking about proving that it actually does what we say it does, we've gone through, I mean, Data Direct and obviously Ray, you know, when the pandemic first initially happened, it was something we realised overnight that the print industry had probably changed forever. You know, the print side of people's businesses just dropped so dramatically. And what we decided to do was try and find some products, some business machines that our customers could sell into their customers that, one, is still a business machine that actually they can sell with things like a consumable, being the SmartMister Solution, but also, you know, trying to keep their customers safe at the same time. So a lot of work and effort has been put into this range of machines and the testing of them, making sure that the SmartMister Solution works to what we say it does. And ultimately, we also can do a test, can't we, Ray, to prove actually it's doing what we say it does? Yeah.
One of the links we put on our dealer website side of things is a link to an NHS videos where they're taking these swabs, and basically they're swabbed above doors or on desks, etc. And then they put it into a machine on site or sent off to a lab, and that gives them a clean score to prove that they've actually sanitized to a certain level, just like operating theatres used to do. They basically extended that into doing corridors and toilets and everywhere. So you can do the same test. Effectively, we can supply you with a kit. We give you this sticker in the box that goes onto a desk or above a door. You swab it, and basically scan into the database the results, send it back to us. We give the results, it goes in a database, and we ferret it backwards and forwards, and that'll tell you whether you're legally allowed to open up again.
And this is to insurance level as well, isn't it, Ray?
Yeah, that's only if you're going, call it over the top, and you've been told that you need to close down and do a deep clean and reopen. And normally they would expect, you'd see a pub was told in Aberdeen, a pub was told to close down because they had the COVID outbreak from that pub. And then, so they have to do a deep clean, and then they're expected to open about 3 days later because it takes so long to do it. So they wheeled this in, basically gasified the whole area, and then an hour later do the swabs and then prove that they've made a 6 log reduction in the pathogens that this picks up, and they were allowed to open 1 hour after they were told to close down. So they went from 3 days of lost income to 1 hour of lost income and a bit of time to do the swabs. So that would be in the extreme cases where you've got to prove to an authority. So you scan in the database and then basically record that. We have little stickers we give out with the system as well, these sort of things. And then you put that onto a desk or somewhere. And then every time you clean the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you could record when you last tested it and then put that into a book and then prove that you've kept up with your sanitation levels. So there's a methodology to follow to prove how you clean. And that methodology is in an NHS document and in the wellbeing building management document as well.
So you also have another way of showing that actually where the SmartMister is getting to as well, which obviously isn't ultimate, proof as in what the swab test is. But if you were going out to show a customer the product and show them how it's working and where it's actually, what areas it's getting to, we have a product that you can use to do that.
We do. There's a simple way that we have a little particle sensor, and basically if that number there is above 47, you've got enough of the HOCl in the air to sanitize the air. If it's above 144, there's enough to be sanitizing all the chairs and the desks and all the rest of it. Because I turned it on a little bit, there's still some left in the air. But if I turn this on now, after a small amount of time, so you could turn the SmartMister on in the far left-hand corner of your office, you could walk 10 meters away down a corridor, and then with this detect whether the mist from this is getting to you. So even at times you can't see the mist, it's so thin, you can watch this number going up and go, right, it's got to 400. So I know for sure it gets along this corridor. I know for sure it gets along above the government levels that are recommended. So it's fine. It's going up at the moment, 400, 500. So right now this room is filling with the mist. Yeah. When that gets to above 700 and something, it's actually too much for this one little area. And if that was like it's getting to 900, if that was right below, say, a smoke alarm, it would confuse the smoke alarm and could set that off. Some alarms, the good quality ones don't go off, the bad ones can. But it's gone up and down. It's a little went to 900, it's come back to 4 because it travels around in waves. And basically this device allows you to see where it's got to and the concentrations of it, and know that effectively, even though you can't see it, it's getting to you. So it's a handy little tool.
So the one thing that we won't discuss during these webinars is pricing. That's something that you guys need to speak to your account manager about, because all these videos do get uploaded to our YouTube site. So if there is any pricing that you want to discuss at all, then please get in touch with your account manager at the end. Things like the particle sensor and the SmartMister and the solution itself. So we'll just revert back to coverage, Ray. So what do we say that the SmartMister's coverage will be using one bottle of the 5 litre?
So that one's slightly harder to answer because it depends on what international standards you're going for. If you're doing a deep clean mode, then you use more of the liquid. So what we do is on the documentation, we say the bottle of this will last 962 meters squared. And then depending how you use it and the shape of your building, etc. It normally works out about 31 days, 32 days for 5 litres of this in a reasonable size office. But it will cover 81 meters cubed at the highest government regulations. And it will cover nearly twice as much as that is enough just to sanitize. But there's a table in documentation that you can follow, and then the user manual's got some guides on how to place it and how to use it. But it's kind of like 14 meters squared is the smallest it'll do, 81 meters squared is the biggest it'll do. And when I say squared, we turn that into cubic meters by presuming that a ceiling height is 3.5 meters high down to 2.3 meters high. So it is converted. To simplify it, we're talking in square meters. But 81 square meters roughly at the highest level. More, and that's per hour. So if you leave it on for an hour and a half, it'll do a bigger room. But right next to where you put the unit might deliver too much of it, and you might get a grey powder that builds up and things. So it'll still do it, but so you can leave it on for longer.
So we tend to use ours in the Bradford office. We put it on once a morning before our earliest person comes in, who actually comes in at 5 o'clock. So we put it on at around about 4 o'clock in the morning for around about an hour. I think we've knocked it down to about half an hour now, because it does actually get even downstairs as well on the upstairs one, but we obviously use the downstairs one as well. And that and a 5 litre bottle does quite easily, quite comfortably last us a month. What dealers seem to be doing with it is there's some dealers that are looking to lease the product. There are some dealers that are looking to sell them out on a monthly contract, which includes 1 bottle of SmartMister Solution, and then charge thereafter for SmartMister Solution. There are other dealers that are doing it on like a daily cost, like £1, £2, whatever it is, for the machine over so many years. So there are all different ways of looking at doing it. And again, that's something that you're better off having a word with your account manager about. But you know, there is consumables to be had with this as well, isn't there, Ray?
Yeah, and places that I've put it into, like a care home and chiropractor and things, they start to find other uses for the liquid. So they'll put it into a mister and squirt on a desk and wipe it off that way, sort of thing. Or they'll put it into a fine mister and then basically use it for the faces and hands. And great for the skin and these kind of things. So people find all different uses for it. Or you're running around saying a toilet or taking it in their car.
To be honest, I mean, we do actually, the one upstairs, the girls have always said, because we've got some girls that work in our office, and obviously myself is included in this, and we've noticed that our skin is softer because of the SmartMister.
Yeah. It basically goes into your skin, because it's so fine, it goes into the 7th layer, the dermis of your skin, and then your body thinks that it's got HOCl from the outside, and then it makes HOCl from the inside. So it actually ends up boosting your immune system by about a factor of 10. And the result of that is your skin becomes a bit regenerated. But the salt particles in it make it feel smooth. So people really like it, and it's really good for your hair as well.
And in an age of, you know, we're all talking about alcohol products as far as, you know, I'm not talking about pubs, guys, that hopefully will be soon. I'm talking about alcohol products to clean your hands and, you know, to sanitize and all. That's all we seem to be talking about at the moment. Yeah. Whereas this is a completely safe product. You know, you can leave your food out overnight, I presume, Ray?
You can. Apples in a supermarket are already covered in this. It's already put on things like tomatoes and apples and quite a lot of different fruits to stop them rotting and stopping mushroom spores from eating away and forming funguses. So it's used in all sorts of places. That one is sold in Boots the Chemist for £94, and there's 2 versions of it. One it's used is put it in your mouth to get rid of bad breath, etc. It's also sold as a thing to repair your gums. And in America, this is sold for about $60 to $100, and they use it as a skincare product. So basically, they put it on spots and just rub it around, and it boosts your immune system. It's also sold as antifungal infection for nails, so you put it on your feet, or to get rid of males as opposed to females produce a bacteria from their feet when they sweat, and basically it kills that off almost instantly. So it's used there. And
we noticed last year as well, didn't we, that when we first started using it down south, one of the guys there who's got quite bad allergies as far as pollen.
Yeah, the pollen. When we first started to do it, I think it was May or April when he had a problem, but he suffered badly from pollen, so hay fever, and we back onto farmland, and everybody else wants the windows opened in the summer. So the windows open, the pollen comes in, and he's on the app, he's on his phone the day before, trying to work out whether he's going to be suffering, whether he needs to take tablets before he goes to work. And this year we basically had this running at night time, so he would come in and the place was sanitized. And he never once had a day off work, and he never once was sniffling, and he never thought about it until after the event, when we said, when it got to sort of, was it, I can't remember exactly, it was July or August or something, we mentioned to him, just asking him, and he never had a single day's problem with it, because it gathers all the pollen, surrounds it, and it basically makes it not fall down. It takes big things like pollen out of the air, and he felt great about it. It's a bit like being at the seaside. When you go to get the sea air has got lots of small salt particles in it from sea surf, it's called, and that sea surf that's in the air stops any big things like pollens attaching to it, so you don't go up your nose because they're too big, and it's just like that. So it's just like the sea air, even has that same summer smell.
Yeah, absolutely. It does smell very clean indeed. But I think this going forward as well is a really important thing, because obviously we're all talking about COVID at the moment, and it's something that none of us really want to talk about forever. But it probably is going to be around for a long time. But so are other things. When people start coming back into the office, there's norovirus, there's flus, there's colds, there's all these kind of things. But we do want to get people back into an office, and this machine will enable that. It will mean that there can be hot desking. There can be people making sure that they feel safe when they come back to work.
Yeah, one of the new tests for COVID-19 and COVID-21 that's in this standard coming out for April is quite scary as well, because they're talking about all different variations of COVID-21 now, that you've got to put in a tank, you've got to put in live virus cultures, and then set a sneezing test up within half a metre and prove that they die of spitting it out up to 21 miles an hour at that speed. So they're talking about all sorts of mutations of viruses as well that you have to prove. And come September, there's going to be, as part of the Clean Air Act in Britain and the wellbeing initiative of the rest of the world, buildings that occupy more than 16 people are going to have to start to prove the air quality and have systems in to actively improve the quality of air and water and the environment that people are working in. So this is one of the devices that we've been making sure that it complies with all of that documentation when that comes out in September onwards. Because we're all getting more wary to viruses now, and it is becoming a normal thing where buildings occupying other people, like supermarkets and train stations, will all have to actually do something legally going forward now.
Well, it's definitely a future thing, isn't it, Ray? I mean, we did, when we initially started off, you did a quite a big case study with a chiropractic clinic, which is on our YouTube channel as well. But if you want to just give a quick overview of what happened there.
Yeah, that one was, I go to a chiropractor, and when the first pandemic happened, he had to close down because they're skin-to-skin contact people and not allowed to stay open. And he asked his governing board what you need to do to reopen. And they said, well, you need to prove your cleanliness and your lack of pathogens and lack of other things. And well, how do you do that? And he said, well, they gave him these swab test things. And when he did it himself, he failed. So we put this in, I offered to put this into him. We put this in, it's in reception, and it covers quite a few rooms round and a bit of upstairs. And now he got to a stage where it was taking him about an hour and a quarter after each patient. They had to wipe down the whole rooms and reception areas before he could allow another patient in. So instead of getting a patient in every 15 minutes, he was at one patient every hour and a bit. And then we put this in, and then he did the swab test afterwards and proved that he can get that down to a few minutes. So he's now 20 minutes between patients. It used to be 15, but this is only a little bit more, and more of that's to do with reception. So he can open up again. And then he said brand new customers that have came, because we supply them little stickers in the box that say the mist that you're seeing is sanitising staff and you, keeping you safe. And we'll give them stickers that it puts up to say that the premises have been sanitised overnight to this standard. So he's actually getting new customers that come in because they think it smells clean because it removes all the funguses that cause smell, and they like the fact that it smells and tastes different in the air. It smells like seaside and really clean.
It certainly smells very clean, that's for sure. So as far as there's one point you haven't mentioned, which is the baby mode on it, which is the small room mode.
Yes, there's two main modes on it. There's the deep clean mode, so you would do when you're told you need to close down and reopen up, or you want to do a once a month proper deep clean. And then what we call baby mode was actually meant for small rooms. And baby mode maintains the humidity at 50%, and basically it will take longer to distribute the gas around. And it's originally designed for smaller rooms, but it takes longer to distribute it around, but it doesn't set off smoke alarms, and it doesn't do a completely, overwhelming deep clean. It just tops it all up. So there's two modes in it. One is an automatic mode that will adjust, and then the other one is a fixed mode that spreads it out over a certain distance.
Okay, so I'll just let you know about one more thing before we move on to the new product ranges. As far as the SmartMister itself and the MiniMister and the SmartMister Solution is concerned, the only warranties we give are based on the two being together. Now, this machine has been something that Ray's developed over the last year, and made sure that actually, with our SmartMister Solution, it does what we say it does. If you put something else into this machine, it probably will kill it. And the warranties won't be there. So, the two absolutely are hand-in-hand products. There's no point in even trying to put something else in it, because it probably will kill it off. Yeah,
this is we've got a manufacturing partner that we've done work for chemical things in industry before, in food production, etc. And the difference with this is you can buy HOCl, but it's not stable. It will only normally last on the shelf for about a month, and then you've got to use it so many days after you open it. Whereas this, you can open it, allow air into it, and you've got a year. So this is actually encapsulated in a saline product, and then we break the bond of the saline in this to disperse it. So this is quite different. If you put a water diluted product in here, or you put a different version of HOCl that's not in a saline, this will actually, it will deliver it too thick, if you want to call it that. It won't actually come out in the right parts per million. So it took quite a lot of engineering to work out how to change the sound frequencies of the transducer to match the atomization of this liquid in salt.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So again, this is a product that is specifically made for you guys to be able to sell out there. So it's not something that anyone could just pick up from anywhere. It's something that we've developed for the copier dealers to be able to sell within the industry, and hopefully help staff to keep safe. But like I say, so warranties, ultimately it has to be the solution that goes with the Mister, and the same with the mini Misters as well, which we'll come on to now.
So this is a big machine to do large office, large spaces, but it doesn't go into a toilet, because a toilet doesn't have means electricity, and unless you put this on a trolley and a big long wire going in, it doesn't get through. So if you've got something behind, say, a fire door, or you've got, we're trying to get into a toilet or something, we do a little version of it. There's instructions of how to use it here and how to refill it, etc. And then this tells you what it does. But basically, you turn this one on, it gives out a mist not to the same level as that one, and it will cover 4 meters round about of it. So if you're in a toilet, put it on your system, it will do the toilet. And if you've done a reception desk, you put one of these on your reception desk with a little sign beside it that tells people what it's actually doing. And then this basically is an internal battery that will run away for many hours. You can put 2 modes on it, one that's continuous and then one that stops, starts, stops, starts. And that's kind of it. So this one is a small room, small meeting room, goes into a toilet, has a built-in battery, and they'll just do a small area. So I've got a cleaner that basically now takes this in when she cleans people's offices and houses. She takes it in and makes her feel safe about going into strangers' offices or houses. And you know, and then if other people that have just used this to get rid of the smell of pets, wet dogs. So it's.
I know I mean we've got them here, and I must admit I can't wait for the idea. And I think I said it in the meeting last week as well. You know, the idea of being around family and friends again is so important to all of us. But you know, we're all going to be extremely cautious when that does happen. I've got a 70-year-old mother who's got MS, and I know that this will be put in my car before the first time I go and see her, because just to make us all feel that little bit more secure and that little bit more safe. I mean, how long would it take, Ray, for this to, you know, clear the?
This one is instant on contact, and this one needs about 3 minutes of running before it's got to a level where it's starting to do a job. So you've got to have this with a minimum of 3, and then normally about half an hour roughly running at a time will be fine for a small area. You can leave it on 24 hours a day. It won't last 24 hours a day, but I'm saying you can leave it on until the liquid runs out. So the liquid is basically in the bottom there.
Yeah.
And then that seals, so you can turn it upside down, etc. But this will stay running for about 4 hours in full mode and about 10 hours in normal mode. Or you can plug a USB cable in and it will run until the liquid runs out, which I can't remember how long that is. I think it's 14 hours. And then just, you know, have it in the background.
And the great thing about it, I mean, obviously, ultimately, this is the one that does the deep clean. However, you know, for things like, I presume, you know, like you said, meetings, it could be on while we're having a meeting, just to give that little bit of reassurance. Taxi firms, anything that's got a small, I suppose, cab companies, lorry companies, hauliers, you know, all those kind of things would be ideal for this kind of thing, because literally you can put this in, leave it in there for 10 minutes, and actually the next driver can go in and do his day's work.
Yeah, and it's still sanitizing to the right levels as well. So, you know, it's delivering the liquid in a gas form, not to the sort of deep clean thing of that. So you couldn't have this instead. It's a top-up area, or put it in your toilet, or put it in, you know, a car before you get into it. These sort of things. It's great for that sort of scenario. We've started putting in some tests into reception areas, like a fish and chip shop or a cafe, and then basically that's just sitting at the side running away, and then people read the sign going, this is protecting staff and customers, and they feel a little bit better about exchanging money and touching things as well.
Oh yeah, I suppose even hairdressers and things like that would be another great one for this kind of thing, where actually, you know, it is something that's, you know, keeping people safe while they're there.
Yeah, you would need to have one per person space, because the current COVID rules is the people have got spaced apart with shields. So it technically be one of these per persons, one space.
But again, would it be, you know, something that you could move in, do what it needs to do, and then move it out after?
Yeah, you could move it in, turn it on, let it go for a few minutes, and then move a person to that space.
Yeah.
Whilst you're occupying that space, it'd be fine. So yeah.
So it's a great little add-on tool as well, along with the DT5300.
And it's really good at getting rid of bad smells as well. So you put it in places that builds up smells. It's really good at that. The deodorant side of it is really good.
I know the one thing that you see, Ray talks all the professional talk about what it actually does and things like that. If you hold the button down as well, it all lights up.
Yeah, I think it's a bad thing because it uses more battery and there's no practical purpose. But
One last thing before we open the floor to everyone is just as far as maintenance is concerned on both machines. What we talked about as far as maintenance is concerned on the big SmartMister.
the big one, you lift the lids, you take the tank out from upside down, and then you've got to clean it once a month when it runs out of liquid. And that's generally, we do a cleaning kit, which makes life easier, but you wipe around any excess salt that builds up. There's some seals in it that will leak, pull air in, and you get the salt that's in the air, goes in, crystallizes, and you need to basically wipe that off. So we've got some isoproethanol, some lint-free cloths, and an ultrasonic wand that you would clean the transducer, repeat that a couple of times, and that's kind of it. The carbon filter at the back, just wipe with a microfiber cloth and just wipe any dust that's got in. If you use it at home when there's pets or something, you may have pet hairs on it. But it's normally just maintained once a month. The little one, the only maintenance you can do really is the transducer that's in here, you can clean with a little straw, or maybe put a bit of white vinegar in the top of it occasionally if it clogs up. But if you use it all the time, it doesn't seem to clog up. So there's nothing really to do with this one. This one has an internal filter that might need to be changed every 6 months or a year. To be honest, I don't know how long yet, because I've only been running it for 4 months and I can't see any sign of any problems with it yet. So I don't know how long that one I've been using for a long time, and I know it inside out now. But this is still new.
So that's the mini portable one that we've obviously is here now. We do have, I mean, and this one can go in a car or a cab, etc. We have got one that we are looking to launch shortly, as far as cars concerned as well. Yeah,
the other one is one that will go in the car and drop into the cup holder. It's the same dimensions as a can of Coca-Cola, and basically that thing is, this one looks as if it's giving out more of a mist, yeah, but it's not. It's actually 3 times thinner than this one. It's quite a strange look to it. So this is actually giving out less mist. It only looks more because it's more scattered. That's more they're different. But this one, put in a car and sanitize your car, and you can be driving with this one, and that's kind of it. It's just similar sort of thing, but to go in a car. So if you're worried about, if you're sharing a car with someone, put this one in, and it will run in the background and basically clean the air and get rid of pathogens from inside the car's cabin.
Okay.
This one you could put in the car before you get there, like we give one to Alton taxis. They put that in between customers, and it deodorizes their cab and cleans their cab, and they just wipe it around with a cloth.
Which, to be fair, I think a lot of taxi firms do need to deodorize the cabs before they let people in. So whether or not it's just their cleanliness or for killing things, pathogens, I think it's a really worthwhile thing to do. So ultimately, this one's the one that does the deep sanitization. This one is then your next one in that will do, your space, and then the next one would be something for your car while you're in the car.
Yeah, and we've got the next things after that is we've got room filled. We've got data logging systems that screw on the wall and record all the data of how you clean it is and give you a clean score to meet the wellbeing standards in the WHO directive. Any other questions?